Hey everybody, how's it going today? Thanks for joining me on this rainy Wednesday in Brooklyn, but it's actually kind of nice and cool temperature-wise, so I'll take it. It's all good for me, you know. All right, so we'll say hi to everybody first, and I have a masterclass coming up this Saturday. It's the Sweet Blues Masterclass. I'm going to play a little bit, give you some idea of what we're going to talk about, but that B.B. King sort of thing. I always, when I first started playing blues, everybody's like minor pentatonic, you get into that sort of Stevie Ray Vaughan-ish thing, which is cool. But I remember starting to really get into guys like Clapton and Peter Green and Jimmy Page, and then in turn, after that, B.B. King, Freddie King, and Albert King. Well, not so much Albert, a little more minor on the Albert. Anyway, B.B. in particular, I started realizing like, oh, those guys listen to B.B. King a lot. So just getting at some of that major blues sound into your playing, mixing major and minor pentatonic, B.B.'s box, adding in some chromaticism, outlining the changes, but with a real major sort of sound, really highlighting that stuff that specifically B.B. King and the guys who were heavily influenced by B.B. King, which would really be pretty much everyone, whether you know it or not, which is really quite funny. So that is on sale using the link below. Spots are limited. BB threw that in there. The spots are limited. I said BB, but spots are limited, and it's filling up. So check that out. It'd be great to have you. And if you can't watch it live, that's fine. You can watch it anytime you want on the replay. Tab, notation, backing tracks, all included. And you can watch it many times over as you want. Once you have it, you can stream it on your device or anything that you use at any point in time. Also, I've been doing some private lessons. There's a link for that as well. Some people have been bugging me. People are like, I want to take a private lesson. And so I've got those. There's just individual slots. A lot of people like doing it every once in a while. They kind of check in, see what they could work on, maybe some direction, blah, blah, blah. All right, cool. So today we're going to talk about the gear that got away, right? There's a lot. This would be fun. People are already chiming in the I'll talk about this in a second. Just a little kinesiology tape, just to have a little wrist thing going on. It's fine. It's getting better. But this is some sort of biofeedback in the sense of like, try not to bend my wrist. It's a good reminder not to do that. Trying some stuff. Things are good, getting better, but got to refine the playing even more than I thought. It's funny. I'll just talk about that for a sec. You just sit down and I think a lot of the stuff that's going on is, repetitive stress, but my posture is pretty good, but I think I'm discovering it could be a heck of a lot better. So anyway, that's just a reminder. It's nothing bad. It's like kind of a reminder to keep your hand, don't bend that wrist. Anyway, all right. So lots of really good comments already of people, the gear that got away. And thanks for everybody for being here. So there's a few kinds of people out there. Like my friend Angus Clark, who's maybe going to chime in at some point. He never sells anything. Doesn't regret, because he never sells anything. He's got, a lot of guitars, but he doesn't. I kind of went through a lot of guitars. I started doing a lot of, my taste changed, and I went through a lot of things. And in that kind of that mania, sometimes I let some things go. So I wish I had a picture of it. I think the one I regret the most was you've seen it in some of my old videos, was my 1964 ES345. It had a Bigsby on it. It had the original wiring. It had never been touched. And I had gotten it from a student. He had passed away, and his widow, I was friends with the family. The widow gave me the guitar at a very reasonable price, kind of what they were going for at that time, though. And I got it because I thought, well, great. And then as the prices started to increase in that guitar, it was an interesting moment in my life where I didn't think I deserved a vintage guitar, because to make it my own, I would need to have gotten rid of the Veritone, and because it's a stereo guitar, so all the wiring was original. I kept on reading like, oh, don't touch the original wiring, blah blah blah. So I sold it. There was reasons needing to sell it, and those are the things that start to happen. I've got a kid, and there's school expenses, and all these things like that. So I need to free up that money, but a lot of it was I didn't think I deserved that guitar, and nowadays. I would have done everything to keep that guitar, and I would have just changed the wiring and played the heck out of it, So it's a different point in my life. So that's one that I regret. It was really nice guitar, PAFs. They were patent pickups, but according to my friend Holger Notzel, who knows everything about this, the gold ones, right? The ones that were the gold PF tops were lesser used, so the ones that were patent stickers, now somebody could correct me, but this is what I heard from him, that those were actually PAFs. They just were old enough that they just put the sticker on them. So the gold ones moved slower than the nickel topped ones. So those pickups could have been a few years old. And so that was probably like my first one. When I look back on it, I go, see videos of me playing that, and I love 335. So I was like, oh man, but it was a kind of a bigger ticket item, and kind of needed the money. The second one was my 1964 Deluxe Reverb. Okay, now you guys are gonna laugh, but this was a different point in my playing. I sold it to finance my Bogner Shiva. Which actually, let's talk about that sent me on a road and a path of becoming friends with Reinhold and working with Bogner. It was my first endorsement deal, and in the foray into boutique amplifiers. And I used the Bogner for a really long time. That's not the Bogner on that track, but on my first record, there's a lot of a Bogner Shiva. So that worked out well, but I don't love deluxe reverb. It's not my favorite. I prefer Princetons and I prefer Supers, but the deluxe is great. I think part of the biggest sting about some of those is how much they go for now. You're like, how much should I sell that for? But it was good money back then. But man, have you guys priced blackface Fenders or earlier at this point? The prices on those are insane. And I don't necessarily think an old amp is worth a lot of money because of the maintenance. You know what I mean? Okay, so those are the two in the vintage sort of thing. Now everything is vintage at this point, Whatever. So there's probably some pictures of it. I should have brought it from downstairs, gone downstairs when I had all this hair. When I had hair, but I had a lot of hair. I had And my Jackson Soloist. It wasn't even number 100. I ordered it when they called him like a Jackson Dinky. And then I got it. So it must have been like 83 or like 84. There's Angus chiming in. 84, I think I got it. And I pumped a lot of gas for that. Cut lawns, birthday money. I was in high school, so I saved up. And I got this Jackson Soloist. It had a Kahler on it. But it wasn't even number 100, so it was really early, and I wish I still had that. I kind of I fell out of love with it, and was my main guitar for a very long time was the San Dimas Charvel Seafoam Green that actually Angus helped me sell it, because I wasn't using it, but I was never thinking like long term. I was really like, what am I playing now? So yeah, those are the things I think I regret the most, because I'm not real nostalgic about guitars, but I would really like to have that old Jackson back, just because it was, my first real guitar. I worked really hard for it. It was a lot of work to get that guitar, and I wish I still had that one. But those are the main ones. There's like little things that kind of got away, like a pedal you probably shouldn't have sold. Like my first Klon. Then I got a second one through some people I was working with in return for playing on some stuff. I'm less so much about pedals, but I like that deluxe reverb back, and I really would like that ES345 to make that into a 335. I remember telling Robin about it, and he was like, "But why didn't you just rewire it?" I was like, "Well, because I didn't think about it at the time." He's like, "Ah, the heck with that," All right, so let's go through some people are shouting out what they sold. And this is kind of fun. So you got you have to move on. If you needed it for bills, you needed it for bills. That's the most painful thing when you sell something for bills. Because then you got to do what you got to do, but then it just goes away and you can never get it back, or it takes so long to get it back. Anyway, all right. It's stupid money nowadays, right? My Jackson Fusion Pro, right? There you go. Shout out to Todd Mills for buying both of those Charvels. Yeah, he bought Angus's original Charvel. Mine had the pointy headstock. Angus has had the Strat headstock, the Fender headstock. So it was super cool, Let's see what people got rid of. And the ones that I saw one in here, I'll get to it. I wish I could bring this up on the screen. There was selling a Super Reverb, right? The vintage Super Reverb. Oh, the bass. Okay, Silverface 410 Bassman. and then they sold it. You gave it away to someone, and then they sold it. Yeah, there's a special place in hell for people like that. You know, that's just the karmic ramifications of that are super heavy duty, you know. Carl Hinkle, I'm too lazy to sell anything. I just keep on adding more stuff. I still got plenty of stuff, but yeah. I give everything away, not anymore, right? I gave, yeah. Let me see what else is going on here, what other people say. This is Kurt Schaffenberg. My high watt was stolen from a church sanctuary, go figure, right? And I had to trade my 74 Les Paul Custom for a Marshall Blues Breaker to play the next gig. Still miss that guitar. Yeah. Yeesh, boy. That stinks. What else got going on here? Oh, Joe Burdett, what's up, man? Does Gowanus 50 have a backstory? I'll get back to that. Yeah, sure. I'll talk about that. Sold in 1967, 335, modified by Old Valley Art Store in the 1980s. Bro, yeah. Ouch. You still have your 63 Firebird 5? That's awesome. Biggest regret was selling Les Paul Classic Double Cutaway in red, an anniversary edition. Yeah, there's like all the things you're like, at the moment, you're like, oh, this seems like a really good idea. I should sell this. And then, you know, you're like, ouch. Phil Jones, I feel a bit left out. I've never sold any gear. Okay, I'm such a tightwad that I hardly bought any gear. Well, I wish I were that. Quincy, you better not get rid of this PRS. I don't think I'm going to. This thing is amazing. Victor Beebe, what's up? Beautiful PRS. Thank you. This is Ranzier. I've never sold either. I wish I did. I could use the room, but I can't bring myself to part with anything. Like I said, Angus is kind of like that as well. He doesn't really sell a lot of stuff, which I think is good. Here we go. Lost all my guitars to the first wife in the 90s. 4 Strats, 3 Tellys, 1 Les Paul, 335s were the best ones. Ouch. Angus, I should never have sold that Marshall preamp, right? The JMP1. Those are going for like $1,000 now. I would like to have mine still. A little bit of nostalgia. Bought a 76 Marshall cab with original speakers in 1993 for $225. Kept it at a friend's house while I left in college. He sold it on me. Well, interestingly, Angus Clark has my 70s Marshall cab with the original speakers. And it's being better use there. Okay, a 412. What are you going to do with that thing? That's one of the big things. So I think there's some reasonable things to it, like, all right, I'm going to let it go. Lawrence Mascot lent a 1966 12-string Firebird, at Real Guitars San Francisco for $400 to a friend who was a great blues player. He took it to Memphis to record it and sold it for $5,000 to support his wife's habit. Ouch. Yeah, man. There's a lot, right? All this. Sold my Carvin 100 X100 BM. I had one of those. I don't think you're missing out on much at that point. Frankly, those were not super great. So there's lots of painful stuff that we sold, right? A bunch of ways I do look at it. So if I look at the 345, I have to pay for my kids' school. What are you gonna do? The Jackson Soloist, would I still be playing it? But it'd be nice to have it. Some kind of nostalgic thing. And a San Dimas, that would be kind of cool. The old Charvel. I think the only one, if somebody's, it would be the 335. Or the Deluxe. Those are the two that I would still kind of like to have. Now, next on the list is what would you never sell? So, like, what's the piece, like, what are the things that you would never sell? Dumble, shouldn't have sold it. Tracy, I'm going to give you a big, told Tracy Farmer sold his Dumble. I'm going to give you a big told you so. Didn't I tell you so? Didn't I? All right. All right. A lot of people are talking about all the crazy stuff they sold. Sold a 1976 Gibson Flying V Bicentennial Limited Edition when I was in college. Yeah. But, a lot of times we didn't think these things were going to be worth anything. That's the main thing. I'm talking more about the stuff like that was a great guitar. I mean, there's the things that increased in value, but if you're talking about like a 70s Strat, or an 80s, which are considered vintage at this point, maybe not the greatest instrument. I mean, if you loved it, that's different. You can't. If you loved it, you love it. But if it's not a great guitar, sometimes. All right. So, what would you guys never sell? So for me, I think there's one thing I would never sell, and that is my. Hold on. This is my 1964 Stratocaster. This I would probably never sell. Now, as to quote the movie, I think it's Wall Street, everything's got a price. So, I say that now. You know what I mean. Like if somebody's like, I'll give you X amount of money for it. Yeah, maybe, but this is like the guitar. I haven't been playing it as much as I used to at the moment, but every time I plug it in, it's like it's the old pair of jeans. I love this guitar. It was my first sort of vintage. Well, no, the 335 is my first vintage, but I'm a Strat guy ultimately. And so this is the guitar I think that would not go anywhere. Probably my historic makeover Les Paul. Like, I'm just trying to think of like things like I just couldn't replace, or to replace them would be really expensive. And, sometimes you get into these things, you sell a bunch of things. In other words, I have to sell a whole bunch of things to get those things. And so if you get a really, really good one, like I got a great Strat, I got a really great Les Paul, then I think I'm good. I'm done, and I don't need another one. I don't sell guitars. I found a long time ago that if you like it, keep it. If I could find one similar, it would be hard. Now, one thing, like I sold a nice Strat to my friends over at Watchtower Guitars. I traded it in for actually a DGT that became one of my main guitars. And my friend bought it. He's like, man, this is a great guitar. I'm like, yeah, all my guitars are great guitars because I know how to choose good guitars. He's like, well, why did you sell it? And why are you trading it? I'm like, well, the neck was too big for me. So one thing I have learned is I used to chase my tail a lot with that stuff. Like, oh, the neck's kind of big, and I'd have somebody take the neck down, and then you're messing with the value of the guitar at that point. And then what if the neck was part of the sound or something like that? What are you gonna? I stopped doing stuff like that. That was a great sounding guitar. I used it on some videos, but I just thought like, all right, my friend loves it. I'm gonna get a guitar that was more comfortable for me to play. It was a big neck, and sitting down was okay, but standing up, it was just I couldn't deal with it. I like a medium-sized neck, and this was like a baseball bat. Felt good for like cowboy chords. When I was soloing, there was no shredding on that guitar because I can't get my hand around it. You know what I mean? Here we got some other great ones. Scott from Baltimore. I don't ever plan to sell the '66 Jaguar that I bought used in 1985. Yeah, don't sell that unless you absolutely have to. You know what I mean? I won't sell my Deans, right? Because those are hard to come by now these days, right? Especially the original ones. I never sold the two PRSs signed by Paul, heirloomed for my kids. Yeah, there's a name right there. I know what you mean, for sure. Or my Kramer Beretta. Oh, Stephen Mackerlane, I know that name. All the way from the Highlands of Scotland at the moment. I feel the pang of selling my 1964 Strat. Yeah, there was Steve's guitar and Jeff's guitar. Remember, I AB'd those, my brother's guitar. But it went in good hands. A friend of mine bought it, a mutual friend, and he's loving it. If you're not playing it, there's the thing of like, I own it and that's fun. And then there's the, I want to have the stuff that I play. So I wouldn't worry about it, Steve. But a player bought it, right? Not a player, right? Never want to be a hedge fund type collector. Absolutely, exactly. You sold your dream guitar, the Gem, right? The Ibanez Gem. So those things I wouldn't ever sell. I say ever. You do what you got to do in life. Something happens and you got to come up with cash. You just do what you got to do. That's just life. But meaning I have other things that I would move long before my Strat or the Les Paul or this guitar is pretty good. There's a few like really special items for me. I love my Tuttles, but I'm thinking of the ones that are like absolutely, if I couldn't replace them, or the value of them is increased, or just I wouldn't be motivated to spend that much money. When I bought my Strat, it was not at the prices they're at now. So I'm out at these prices. I'm just out, So I have one. I'll just sit on it and play it, and then yeah. All right, cool. Now, I would say the next question I have that is kind of fun is, what's the best deal you've ever gotten? Not free. Like if somebody gave you a guitar, that's one thing. There's other great things, students or people like, I've had the lovely benefit of being gifted a guitar or two from people, and whether manufacturers, that's more of a professional thing, but like somebody who I knew said like, I'm not playing this, I want you to have it. So that's always been nice. But I would say the best deal I ever found was my 72 Super Lead that I found at Carmine Street Guitars for, I think it was like $800. That was a while ago, so it was, but still $800 for a 1972 Super Lead. Of course, you have to get it fixed up and everything like that, so that was made it more money. But that would be the one deal. So for like that amp right there, I could sell it. I don't really use it that much because it's so big and loud and heavy, but it sounds amazing and it looks great on camera. But it falls into the, would I ever replace that? Do I need it? No. I gig with other amps. Does it sound great? Yeah. But to replace it, at this point, like I bought it so many years ago, it's just there, So I have it when I need it. And when I plug into it, I'm like, yeah, that's that sound. That's it. And what's funny, when I thought about selling it once, my amp tech was like, well, you've got that sound. Whenever you need that sound, you have that sound. Why would you get rid of that unless, you need that money? And selling those is not the easiest thing to do because who's playing 100-watt vintage Marshalls at this point? That's not an easy market these days. Like I talked to my friend at 30th Street Guitars, Matt, who's the owner. He had one in the basement that actually Robin ended up buying a super bass. This was years ago, and he's like, yeah, let's get that thing out of here because nobody's really buying 100-watt Marshalls, at least in New York. It's not a situation where you can gig with something like that. And I know Mick over at that pedal show has just got one, and he's been trying to gig with it. It's a whole thing trying to gig with a really super loud amp, with no effects loop, and it has a master volume. But it's once you have it, All right, I don't know if this is fun or exciting, but these are. Let me see what else we have here. My $99 handmade nylon plays better than $1,000 ones. Yeah, look, if there's a guitar, that too, there's just a guitar sometimes that you just love. Ranzer, I've got my Esquire baritone that my kids brought me a few years ago back for my birthday that won't ever be paired for me. Well, certainly because your kids bought it for you too. And if it's great too, you don't want to get rid of it because it's really hard. Sometimes you just get a winner, and then that's the thing you keep on thinking about. Like, man, I should not have sold that. So Yvonne's going to chime in more on that. So, but I do try to look at it this way, and I'm in life in general. I'm not like a real nostalgic guy. I think we can get my shrink on here about this. Kind of a bit more living in the moment. And the guitars for me are very pragmatic. If I found something like a Strat that I loved, just had to have, I would sell that to get that other thing. And I've also realized that guitars are great, but it's your hands really. It's that makes the sound. There are guitars that I like better than others, of course, when you pick them up, but they're out there. The main thing is that it's you who creates the music. So the piece of gear is just a tool, and there are plenty of those tools out there. Another thing I've really kind of come to the conclusion of, besides things like I can't play really thin necks or something like that, or really fat necks, just hand size and all that kind of stuff. But you can kind of almost get used to anything. And sometimes that brings out stuff as well. Like I like my Fender's 7 1/4 radiuses. It's the vintage kind of radius. But, for years I played a 12-inch radius on there, and I got used to that. And I started playing 7 1/4 when I got that. And then I got used to that. So you can kind of get used to anything. So if you've got a good guitar and a good amp, you're still you no matter where you go. Now, a great guitar can help you can bring out certain things for sure. I'm not saying it won't, because it does. But the gear thing, even though I have no shortage of it, it really boils down to a few guitars that I normally play and an amp or two, and what are the most practical things for me to play. So I do feel good about that point now. I'm kind of at a point where I think I'd like gear because there's the gas angle of things, and it's fun, and it's like gear porn and all that stuff. But for me, what is the most fun to play? What do I get the most enjoyment out of sonically? And what makes me want to play that instrument, and what makes me want to create things on it. That's important. Like, for instance, I don't have it wired up to hear it, but I downloaded the free version of the Pliny neural DSP plugin for a track I'm writing. And it started making me write a song. Like the guitar sound was just, I turned it on, I'm like, well, that sounds great. And I just started writing a track. So if you come to my gig on September 3rd at the bitter end, you're going to hear 2 new songs. Well, one's a cover that I reworked, it's a secret. And the second one's a new tune. So if you come to the gig at the bitter end, September 3rd, my band, you can come hear that live. All right. So, see you, Teacher Dave. Thanks, man. Carl Hankel, not selling isn't about nostalgia for me mostly. It's just I might need it someday thing. Yeah, I have some of that too. And there are some things that I don't use but I hold on to. Like, I'm going to probably need that at some point. Like a pedal or two, like everybody, I don't end up using an EQ pedal, or even more, a compressor pedal. I have one because I might need it. I never use it. My brother asking, that's my brother, do you miss the Westbury amp? Yeah, our mother bought us a Westbury amp, and boy, it was terrible sounding. Just the biggest piece of crap in the world. All right, so this weekend, I have my Sweet Blues Masterclass coming up, so you get the link to check that out down below, or down with BB right there. And in that, we're talking about playing some sweet blues in the style of B.B. King and Clapton and stuff. So let me just play a little bit. I'm going to mute this because let's see how it sounds. So we can talk about some of that stuff coming up on the Blues Masterclass this weekend. That's playing the sweet blues guitar, getting some of that mixing of major and minor pentatonic, mixing some chromaticism in there, outlining those chord changes, but really focusing in around that sweeter major BB's box kind of stuff. Right, that really kind of different sound. I say different, it's common, but when you're first learning how to play blues and solo over the blues, everybody's playing minor pentatonic, and that's cool, but it's feels like it only kind of takes you so far, right? Just playing the minor blues stuff. All right. Any other questions, man? Anybody sold some stuff that they regret? I'm happy to talk about guitar in general if you have any other questions. But I think, like I said, the biggest thing is if I play this and then I pick up another guitar, I'm going to play maybe differently, but I'm still going to play like me. So the gear that got away is fun to talk about, and I think more of it is a bit sometimes like a financial thing. You're like, because nobody knew where some of the prices for these things would go, right? I mean, a vintage, like we talked about a little earlier, the vintage Fender amps, the black faces, it's just absurd the price that they're going for. I think somebody's showing me like a Fender Harvard, it's going for like $10,000. You're like, that's insane. Deluxe reverbs, this is the amount of money they're starting to go for. I don't think it's necessarily worth it. I think it's a bit more of a brag thing. You know what I mean? They sound great, but the thing, like say like a burst, is a burst worth that kind of money? I don't know. Does it sound that great? They can sound great, but that's, $400,000 is a lot of money. Jeff, is that a 594 model PRS? Yeah, it is it's a guitar I made in conjunction with my friends over at Watchtower Guitars, and it is a private stock 594. And what we did was we spec'd it all out. It's lightweight. This one's 7 pounds, 11 ounces. It's not chambered. Figured mahogany, the whole thing. We did the lightweight tuners. We're trying to get it to sound as much like the guitars we loved from the 50s, with the PRS, a bit of the aesthetic, and maybe a little more conservative on the fret markers. It's got no birds. Some people love the birds, some people don't, and some people, it's funny, like when I did a video for this on Watchtower's guitar site, if you want to get one, go over to Watchtower Guitars and tell them your friend Jeff sent you. Someone said, that's the coolest, that's the best looking PRS I've ever seen. And someone said, it looks terrible without the birds. So, it's either way. So if you're into the birds, I get it. If you're into these markers that we came up with to be a little bit more subtle, that's a bit of a different thing, right? But yeah, I'm really enjoying this guitar. Obviously, it plays as great and sounds as good as it looks. So. Yeah. Yeah, so it's I'm enjoying this one. There were more guitars I saw that I didn't have money or the time for. Oh yeah, sure. Sometimes you only have so much time to play, and though I do have a number of guitars, I don't see myself as a collector. I'm not interested in collecting. And some of the things that people say, like you come across a guitar that you sold some stuff, you traded some things, and you're like, I'm not really playing it, but I might need that guitar. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's one of those good things where you're like, I just really like that Mike Landau black Strat that I have. I don't play it because I've got my Tuttle, which I prefer. But, there's this aesthetic. It's got that big headstock. It kind of looks like David Gilmour, not him, but the old Gilmour look or something, or Hendrix. So I kind of hold on to it just because I own it, and I really, really like it. But, like I said, we'll see. That guitar looks great, and it sounds just as good. Thanks. So what I'm playing through right now on this, which is really, I love this thing, this little Marshall. I'm in the clean, well, I have it set pretty clean. I do have a pedal on. I'll talk about the pedal in a second. So I have going into my aux, and that's where the reverb and delay is coming from the aux. So there's sort of the clean sound. I've got it set up the edge of breakup. Yeah, it sounds great. And then it's gonna get unplugged. On the floor is my favorite sort of sleeper pedal. Sorry, it's got a little power adapter. Is the Vemoram Buddy G or Booty G. So let's hear off. I kick it in. It's got gain, bass, and treble, and boost. So without. And then with. So yeah, it's great. I love that pedal. And what I like about this guitar, does it sound exactly like my Les Paul? No, they sound a little different. And that's good. Right? I have a Les Paul. And this has sort of its own thing, but it's in that ballpark of the Les Paul. I really dig it. It's got the coil taps. The single coil there. And the neck too. I don't mind. I like that neck one. So yeah, they make a nice guitar. So if you want to check out one of your own, go over to Watchtower Guitars. And they have all sorts of PRSs there. If you drop my name, give them a call. They'll definitely hook you up, for sure, usually, almost always, especially on the PRS stuff. Okay. So when I'm thinking about gear too, what pickups are in that PRS? These are the 5815 LTs. And the newer ones that they've ordered too have the threes in them. And those sound really great too, you know? So it's, those are really nice as well. I like those. We're going to do a video next week of kind of comparing the two. So pickups for me are always the thing that, like, do I change them sometimes? Because, I've got, well, I'm friends with Ron Ellis, like quite good friends. And so this might find a home in one of my PRSs. I've already put a set of Ron's pickups in two of my other DGTs. So it does have that PRS mid-range thing, which I really like, and especially in recordings. Is that the Studio JTM 45? It is. This is the Studio JTM 45, which is just such a great sounding amp. A video I got coming out, I just have to edit it. My friend Shane Terrio came over from Darryl Hall's band, and we did a video together. He played the bitter end, and we hung out. Great guy, we're friends for years. And we plugged into a bunch of amps. He's like, man, that thing sounds amazing. So he's using that on the video when they come out too. Do other colors on this as well? On this run, yeah, we did a few different colors. So we chose them. We chose the tops. I'm going to do a video on all of it. I went to PRS. We went to the wood library and chose out all the wood. So we weighed them, chose out the tops. It's really great. You put the top on the table and you spray it with water, and then the grain comes out. And we decided a few different tops. The construction's all the same. It's all like a Les Paul, but we just chose different tops. And there's like a charcoal burst, which is beautiful. And then we did some also of the semi-hollows, which are amazing. They're like 5 pounds or 5.5 pounds. They're crazy good. I went with this one because I wanted, we've talked about this, like, and people, it's funny, PRS, some people have a bug up their ass about PRS. And I kind of did at first, I have to admit, being a snobby New Yorker with the, bling tops and everything. And then I started working with them. So I am a PRS endorser. They approached me, but I was really like, I don't know. And they sent me a guitar and I was like, oh, this is pretty great. this is really great. And I started becoming good friends with my friends over at Watchtower Guitars. And then I got the chance to play a bunch of PRSs. So what I ended up doing was moving some things around, and I chose the PRSs that I wanted. And I'm in, man, especially on the Grissom model for like an everyday thing. We've talked about this. You know, the construction, the sound, the playability, all those things are just great. And you hear so many horror stories about Gibson with the quality control. And I've seen it with students. You just go online. Everybody knows that. Yes, it's a Les Paul. It looks cool. I mean, I love Les Pauls. Love Les Pauls. And so I'm not saying anything, you know, they're iconic and I love the way they sound. And I play my Les Paul a lot. But when you're looking at something right off the shelf and you pick up something like this and you pick up a Gibson or a PRS, you know, vice versa, you know, there's no comparison. $15K seems a little rich for a new guitar though. Well, you know, it's not for everyone. And that's the cool thing. And it sounds like a PRS. You know, after going to the company and being there a few times and hanging out with people who work there, I just really like the company. I like the people. They're all into it. Being in the factory, everybody's kind of treated real well. Everybody seemed really nice. It did not have a vibe at all of negative. It was all kind of cool, you know, and he employs a lot of people. And so I just thought I liked it. And it's, you know, it's headed by one guy who's actually a guitar player. You know, he's a character, but he's certainly likable, especially when you meet him and hang out with him in person. You know, he's super passionate about it. And so I just dig it. I just dig the whole thing. So what I like about that, what they're doing is the SC models are relatively inexpensive, and they're great. And then you get to the S2 models, which are kind of a step above, which are great. And then the cores are awesome. And then you got the wood library stuff, and then you've got the private stock. So there's a price, there's a scale for everyone. Yeah, I mean, this is really, really expensive. But hey, you know, it's what I do, and I work with the store and I work with the company. And, you know, I wanted one, and I play it all the time, so it's great. Yeah, so there's, like I said, the price across the board, like a friend, like, Watchtower already used DGT SC, and they were selling it pretty inexpensively, so I called a few of my friends. I'm like, hey, you want one? You got to buy it. And then the guy who bought it was like, this is ridiculous, this guitar. It's amazing. And I know. So, you know, it's what's, you know, it's all for different budgets. I completely understand that this is not an inexpensive guitar, and it's not for everyone. Sean Barley, I got a gold DGT SE, upgraded the bridge and added locking tuners, and it's an amazing guitar for less than $1,000. Right. Absolutely. You know, I have a PRS CE24, and it's a dream to play with the satin neck, and it sounds really good into a tube amp. Yeah, they're great stuff. Like, that's what I love about them. You know, and a lot of, you know, they're just kicking everybody's butt with that kind of thing. They really are. You know, everything. Because I know it sounds like an ad, and people are like, oh, you're like a shill. I'm like, not really. I mean, I love when people say, like, oh, you're a shill for PRS. I've been accused of that. And I'm like, well, what about when I play my Tuttle, which is a signature guitar, over here? Or how about when I play my Gibson or my Fenders? Nobody ever accuses me of being a shill for Gibson or Fender or Tuttle. You know what I mean? So it's I just find it's like a tribal thing. People either love them or hate them. And people are like, oh, they're doing this. I'm like, no, they're a bunch of good guys and really good companies and serious people running it, and they're making seriously great stuff, and they're really driven, and I appreciate that. Hey, and you know, and Fender never returned my phone calls, nor did Gibson, you know what I'm saying? So, and PRS reached out to me. That means a lot, you know, when this huge, the number 3 brand, you know, reaches out to you because they like what you do. So, that being said, let me switch over to my Tuttle. So I've been checking out this thing. Check this out. So, you know, sitting around slouching all day playing guitar, Tim Pierce actually turned me on to something like this. And then I thought Andy Tim was using it. So, you know, you sit here with your leg crossed, you know, and you got your foot up and then... So what this does is it raises the guitar up to... You can adjust it to where it's comfortable for you. And that's kind of roughly the height it is when I sit there with my leg crossed. So if I got my leg crossed... right? And I'm sitting here all day doing courses or doing like this, or using a leg rest. if I put this on, so you can adjust it to the guitar, and it goes here, and you just kind of figure out where it goes, and drop it down a little bit, and yeah, it's kind of where I've been slouching over. So when I play, kind of a bit more the standing height, maybe a little higher than where I stand, maybe about here. So I'm still messing with it. I was talking to Tim Pierce a lot, we talked about this kind of stuff a bunch. Okay, the biggest thing about a guitar, does it make you want to play? This guitar makes me want to play. Every time I pick this thing up, I'm just like, yeah. Same with that PRS, or any of the PRS. Just, yeah. Anyway, okay. So I was talking to Tim Pierce, and Tim wears a strap on the guitar really high. I find, I a bit slouchy to begin with, and if I have the strap and it's on, it's kind of high up, I just start to lean over a bit. So I was trying to avoid that. So this has been fun. I just got him experimenting with it, just for some ergonomic stuff, because I sit around and practice all day or teach, write courses and play. And like I said, there's a little stuff going on with my wrist. That's a bit of a pain. And it's probably just overuse and posture, And so trying to think about things to change. So check that out, right? And it sits there. That's pretty cool. There's a few of them. I found out after I got this one. I got this off of a guy on Etsy who made them with 3D printing with carbon fiber. There's a guy in Italy who makes them. I think he made the original one out of metal or aluminum. So you could check out those. But I like it. It's sitting like right where it needs to be, Can you get one with a tuner built in, right? That would be awesome. Yeah, one right there. So Sons of Sound is the guy who owns my brother's old guitar, so that's pretty fun. And that's the Bemram Booty G into the Marshall JTM 45 Studio. Tons of fun. Jeff, what is the guitar or gear that you almost bought that you didn't, the one that got away? Oh, that's a great question. What did I almost buy that got away? Oh man, before things got really crazy, I had it on hold, but it was tough to pull the trigger, was a 64 single, like a double cutaway SG with a P90, just one. And I hemmed and hawed because it was a single P90, and that was before I was like, and it was only at the time like $3,000, something like that. It was before, this is many years ago, before that stuff went crazy. And it was really good. I played it a million times. My friend was holding on to it. He just called me. I was like, dude, somebody wants it. You got to decide now. And I had to let it go. And that was one of those ones I just like, well, I'm going to need 2 pickups. And then I realized years later after playing those, it's like, no, that's what they're doing. They're just one pickup guitars. That's what they're supposed to do, So that's maybe the one that I should have bought, but didn't. I'm trying to think of other stuff. That's like the main one. That's the one that first popped into my head. I still think about how I'd love to have had that guitar. But you say that and then you might not have ever played it because it was one pickup. I do really realize that I do like the sound of 2 pickups, especially being a Fender guy, generally speaking, or a Strat guy. That neck pickup for me is, it's the best. I mean, there's guitars that I own that I don't play that much, but I'm just not going to get rid of because I would never be able to replace them. There's one or two that I'm like, I'm going to hold on to that thing. But who knows? Sometimes you got it. Who knows what the future holds, but you know what I'm saying. All right, cool. So there's a lot of people on here. Any questions, guys? I'm on here for a little bit more if you want. If not, we can call it a day. But any guitar questions in general, I'm happy to answer. Once again, though, the Jeff Beck Esquire. Oh, yeah, okay. There's another one. Watchtower has a Jeff Beck Esquire, that limited run copy. Man, that is such a nice guitar. If somebody's got the funds, but I couldn't afford it. And they tried to work something out for me to get it, but I'm just like, I can't do that for a new guitar with a bolt-on neck. You know what I mean? If it was an original Esquire, sure, but that wouldn't be that price. But it was just out of my range. It's a collector's item. You know, it comes with a case and Jeff Beck case candy and all that kind of stuff. You know, it's really, but it was great. Amazing sounding guitar. So if you're in the market for something like that, they've got one over there. But once again, what I come down to is I sound like me on kind of just about everything. So the stuff that got away, you know, there's not much you can do about it, right? It's just like the worst one is somebody stated earlier is if you sell it to someone, you give them a deal and then they sell it and make a profit on you, which is the deal though. If somebody sells something, if you sell somebody something, then it's theirs. You know, you can't get mad about it unless you have the stipulation of like, if you sell this, you know, that kind of, if you're doing it for a friend, but if you sell it to a store and then you walk back in and they've got it for 3 times as much money, that's on you really, right? What's the Marshall JTM 45, or is it JTM 20? It's a JTM 20, 20 watt. I really dig it, and it's got the effects loop too, which I really like. Oh, BB, yeah, I'm gonna get to it. I thank you so much again. BB is hooking up with a friend of his in the business. So, I really love this amp. My only fear about gigging with it live, and I've not gigged with it live, is since it's 20 watts with my band, is there going to be enough headroom? That's my only question. It's loud, but I'd have to bring it to the gig and have another amp just in case, because there is nothing worse than not having enough headroom. So we talked about this. So very often on gigs, I run my pedal board into a clean amp so I can have all this headroom. I've got my Two-Rock Studio Signature Combo. Tons of headroom on that amp. So it always sounds great. And like that's an amp that I would be slow to get to sell because it's perfect for New York. It's small. I took the neodymium speaker out. I put the original Two-Rock speaker back in. Might put, if I can find an old classic lead 80, Matt Schofield was telling me the old ones sound better than the new ones because they're where they're made, I think, over at Celestion. I think the new ones are made in China, and he's like, I've heard both, and they don't sound, you know. So I might try one of those because for me, speakers should be Celestion, right? They just, most of the things I play through have Celestions in them. They always sound right to me. I like the Two-Rock speakers plenty good. I just want to experiment with the classic lead. That's what Matt's using. And you know, Matt gets a great guitar sound, as we know. All right, so once again, I am playing the Bitter End on September 3rd. So if you are in the New York City area, come on down. It's 8 p.m. And you go over to my Instagram page or my socials. You see the link to that. Just go to thebitterendnyc.com and you can pick up tickets. Hopefully to be debuting some new material. And this weekend on Saturday is my live Sweet Blues Masterclass, playing in sort of the style of B.B. King, Clapton, that kind of mixing major and minor blues stuff that I talked about earlier, outlining chord changes, adding in some chromaticism. I'll show you some licks, work you through it, so you can think about these things, how you're outlining changes conscientiously, but in that style. And that's coming up on Saturday. If you can't make it live, then you can watch it anytime on the replay. I'm also offering private lessons. I got a link down there below for some private lessons on a limited basis. So first come, first serve. And there's the Inner Circle, which I got a few guys in the Inner Circle here. And that is where we meet twice a month for open counseling for a few hours. And I give lessons too for that as well. So everybody gets, there's a lesson for each of those. Filmed in HD, and then we talk about the lesson, and we do open counseling. So it's been really great, and it's been growing, and it's been a ton of fun. So you can check that out as well. I think it's closed at the moment. We'll be opening it back up again for enrollment. All right. Hold on. Okay. See ya, Bill. Speaking of Matt, any chance that you guys may do a collaboration? We gig together all the time. He's playing at the Iridium coming up. I usually sit in with him. He hasn't officially asked me, which is he's always It's usually kind of a standing thing. Whether it happens or not doesn't matter. But in terms of recording, probably not. Just because, getting that together. He lives in Florida right now. And, aligning that into a studio and recording. So most likely not. He's pushing his record. I'm recording some new stuff. And the new stuff I'm really kind of stuff that I'm working on is more rock in the style like kind of the Jeff Beck stuff that I love so much. So not really a blues thing at all. Like the intro music, right? That's the kind of music I play. Instrumental, heavy, fusion-y rock stuff. Right, Matt at the Iridium this Saturday, the 23rd. So I'm gonna be going with my friend Jeff. I may be sitting in. I have every other time. So we'll see what happens. All right. More importantly, I'm at the Bitter End on September 3rd. That's more important. And my masterclass this weekend is more important too than Matt's gig because he's not here. I can say that because Matt's one of my good friends. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for hanging out today. The guitar that got away, what are you going to do? You just got to move on, right? But it's kind of fun to talk about. I once had that, that guitar that's now worth $40,000 that I sold for, a tenth of that or whatever. That's the most painful part. That, especially that with a 64 335, there's no getting that back. That's the bummer. That's the one I'm bummed about. All right. Anyway, I'm going to go get off the call and cry about that. Thanks to Beavy, as always, for hanging and doing this. I got some really fun, cool YouTube videos. I got the one coming up with Shane Terrio. I got a video that a bunch of my friends from around the guitar community are putting some guitar tips together for me, so I'm looking forward to that. That'll be fun. 20 plus. Lots of people we know from both sides of the Atlantic. So I'm looking forward to that, putting that one together. It's going to be a little bit of editing, getting it together. But all right, everyone. Thanks again. Like and subscribe. Really helps. Tell your friends. Go over to Jam Guitar Lessons if you want to help support the channel. All sorts of courses over there. And you guys are the best. I appreciate you guys. And thanks so much. And I will see you guys later. Take it easy.